السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةُ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, as to what is translated, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ, that the life of this world is nothing but play and amusement. لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانُ, and the home of the hereafter, it is the real life. It is the real life. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ, if people only knew. If they only knew. The concept of only living once has sparked a revolution of idiocy and self-destructive behaviors in recent times, which is a reflection of our fundamental regression as a people. For how could a people who come from the most technologically advanced society in the world accept something so fundamentally absurd and morally deviant? This concept of YOLO, only living once, you only live once, has the propensity to create a generation of people who only live for the moment, who only live for the right now, and place no importance or emphasis on the consequences that await them later on in the hereafter. There's a saying amongst scholars in Islam, al-tarikh yu'ibu nafsa, that history repeats itself. And this is even more so as it relates to concepts and ideologies and dogmas and beliefs which seem to never die with the passing of time and generations in which those beliefs were created in. They are only inherited by succeeding generations who most of the time are not even familiar with the origin of these beliefs and where they came from. As the scholars say, لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ وَارِثٍ, that every group of people has another group of people who will succeed them and inherit their deviant beliefs and ideologies. When we look at the revelation from the early stages in Meccan society, these verses that were revealed in the Meccan period, they concentrated on three subject matters. They concentrated on correct belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, i.e. Tawheed and Shirk. They also concentrated on stories of some of the most prominent prophets and messengers in order that the Prophet ﷺ and the believers would draw lessons from them, from their stories, and apply it to their lives. As the Prophet ﷺ, when he was accused of being unjust and unfair in the distribution of the war goods, the spoils of war, a man stood up and he said that Muhammad doesn't desire by his distribution the face of Allah, nor is he being fair. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, Wallahi la ukhbiranna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam bima qult. He said, I swear by Allah, I'm going to go tell the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam what you just said. And when Abdullah ibn Mas'ud told the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam what the man said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Rahim Allah Musa, faqad udhiya bi akthar min dhalika fa sabra. He said, may Allah have mercy on Musa. He was harmed with worse than what I'm being harmed with, but he was way more patient than I am. He got the lesson. He drew lessons from the stories of the prophets and messengers, these most influential men. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in another narration collected in the Sunnah of Ibn Majah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent from the time of Adam to his time 124,000 prophets and 315 messengers. 124,000 prophets and 315 messengers. And the Prophet ﷺ was the last of those prophets and messengers. And so he drew from their stories, he drew from their lives the lessons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in their stories for him and the believers to benefit from. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Yusuf, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. That you have in the stories of the prophets and messengers, ibrah, you have in them lessons, لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, for men of understanding, men of intellect. And the third of the categories of these verses that were revealed in the Meccan period were verses that concentrated on correcting the distorted beliefs about the hereafter that many of the chiefs of Quraysh and many of the people of Mecca held on to, which was a combination of their own misconceptions about life and the distorted beliefs that they inherited from Ahlul Kitab, those of the dominant society that surrounded them. And this is commonplace today with many of our children who are second, third generation Muslims who now see it okay to celebrate Christmas, see it okay to celebrate Halloween, see it okay to celebrate Thanksgiving. How can you as a Muslim celebrate something like Thanksgiving, which is meant to commemorate the slaughter and extermination of an entire race of people? And we celebrate it, Muslims, and we say, well, it's not a religious celebration. Even if it's not a religious celebration, the fact of the matter is that it represents the extermination and complete obliteration of an entire nation of people. And if you're Arab, then it is even worse, because many Arabs and many nations like Yemen, like Palestine, like Syria are being exterminated, while you sit here from a place of privilege in America, mashallah, tabarakallah, celebrating Thanksgiving under the guise that it is not a religious celebration. Mashallah, tabarakallah. How dare you? How dare you? You sit from a place of privilege here in America while Muslims are being exterminated around the world. And we say that Thanksgiving is not a religious holiday so that we can celebrate it. La ilaha illallah. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. But the pagan Arabs of Quraysh, they believed that there was no such thing as resurrection. The mere thought of being brought back to life was, in their estimation, impractical, but also futile. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, on the tongue of the chiefs of Quraysh, or some of the disbelieving nations, that the chiefs of Quraysh adopted their beliefs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَيَعِدُكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ إِذَا مِتْتُمْ وَكُنْتُمْ تُرَابًا وَعِظَامًا أَنَّكُمْ مُخْرَجُونَ. هيهات هيهات لما توعدون إن هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا وما نحن بمبعوثين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the disbelievers, they said to other disbelievers trying to persuade them away from the beliefs of the prophets and messengers, أَيَعِدُكُمْ, do they promise you that when you die and you are dust and bones, أَنَّكُمْ مُخْرَجُونَ, that you are going to be resurrected? هَيْهَاتَ لِمَا تُوعَدُونَ, bring on what you are promising if in fact what you are saying is the truth. إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا, it is only our life in this world. نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا, we live and we die in this world. Same concept that many of our Muslim children are running around saying today, YOLO. Understand, history repeats itself. وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ وَارِثٌ, and for every group of people, there's a succeeding generation to inherit their deviant beliefs and ideologies. And unfortunately today, second, third generation Muslims have now adopted those ideologies. Second, third generation Muslims have not adopted the ideology of there's only one God. Tawheed, La ilaha illallah. They don't even know what it means. They translate La ilaha illallah as there's only one God. La ilaha illallah, the Quran doesn't even affirm that. The Quran doesn't even affirm that there's only one God. But this is our children, second, third generation Muslims who know everything about the world but the basic fundamentals of the religion, like La ilaha illallah, something that even a slave woman, unlearned, knew during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. When one of the Sahaba slapped his slave woman and he felt bad and he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "O Messenger of Allah, I hit her, I struck her, and I want to ransom her." The Prophet ﷺ turned to the slave woman. This is a slave woman. Doesn't know, have no knowledge, hasn't sat in circles of knowledge. The Prophet ﷺ asked her, "Ain Allah?" Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? She said, "Focus sama." She pointed above the heavens and said, "Above the heavens." He said, "Well, man ana, and who am I?" She said, "Anta Rasulullah, you are the messenger of Allah." The Prophet ﷺ turned to the Sahabi and he said, "A'atikha fa innaha mu'mina." Free her, for indeed she is a believer. This is a slave woman, unlearned, and many of our children go to Muslim school, born and raised in Islamic schools, and still don't understand where Allah is and who the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. La ilaha illallah. This is what we're doing to our next generation of Islam. Adopting concepts like YOLO, you only live once. Not realizing where the origin of these concepts and ideologies come from. Muslim children. As a Muslim child, they should be, they should feel uncomfortable even uttering the words, "you only live once." When the subject of death comes up in the Muslim community, everything stops because we, amongst other people, understand death more profoundly than anyone else. There is no other book on the face of the earth that details the events from after the soul departs from the body until we stand in front of Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah like the Quran. When the subject of death comes up, everything stops. There's an eerie silence in the room. As the Sahaba said that when the Prophet ﷺ opened his mouth and began to talk, كَأَنَّ عَلَى رُؤُوسِنَا الطَّيْرَ, it was as if birds had landed on our heads, which is a metaphor for a silence that overtook us. When he opened his mouth, everything that came out of it was the haq sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. While today we throw these concepts around, our children throw these concepts around like it's nothing. But they said, does he promise you that when you die and become dust and bones, that you are going to be resurrected? Hayhata lima tu'adun. Bring about what you're saying if in fact you are truthful. In hiya illa hayatuna dunya namutu wa nahya wa ma nahnu bimab'uthin. This is only our life, the life of this world. We live and we die and we will never be resurrected. This belief of living and dying in this life without divine consequences or accountability in the hereafter gives birth to another, more sinister dogma or belief which has all but consumed the youth of our society today, and that is the new religion of self-aggrandizement, the new religion of narcissism, the new religion of self-promotion and self-aggrandizement. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Everybody is important today. And we can blame social media for that. Before the creation of social media, you had to work grassroots and put in work to become famous. And even those who from amongst us worked and put in grassroots work, still even today are not even famous. The books of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala did not become popularized until generations later. A man who died in prison spent his entire life dedicated to the refinement and the removal of what is weak and what is unauthentic from the religion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, single-handedly. Single-handedly. And today many of our children don't even know who he is. But giving in to one's own desires and lusts, despite its incongruence with the moral values designed to govern human behavior. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ وَخَتَمَ عَلَىٰ سَمْعِهِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَجَعَلَ عَلَىٰ بَصَرِهِ غِشَاوَةً فَمَنْ يَهْدِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah says, and don't you see the one who has taken his desires as his God besides Allah? Even in the Quran, Allah affirms that there's another God other than him. But La ilaha illallah affirms that the other gods that are worshipped, they don't deserve worship. And worship is solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هو المستحق للعبادة وحده سبحانه وتعالى. La ilaha illallah does not mean that there is no God but Allah. There are other gods that people worship out there, but they do not deserve the worship that they are given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Wahid, alone is the only one that is worthy of worship. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't you see the one who has taken his desires as his God besides Allah? And Allah, knowing him as such, أَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ, Allah has led him astray of having any knowledge. وَخَتَمَ عَلَىٰ سَمْعِهِ وَبَصَرِهِ, and Allah has put a seal on his ears and on his eyes. وَجَعَلَ عَلَىٰ put a seal on his hearing and his heart. وَجَعَلَ عَلَىٰ بَصَرِهِ غِشَاوَةً, and has placed a covering, a veil over his eyes. He can't see the truth even if it was standing right in front of him. Then Allah asked the rhetorical question, وَمَنْ يَهْدِيهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ اللَّهِ, who can guide him after Allah has done this to him? أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ, won't you take a reminder? Who can guide him after Allah has done this to him? And this is the description of many of our children, Muslim children, born and raised in Muslim homes. They are then called in their ear. Dates, the tahniq, dates rubbed on their gums. La ilaha illallah called in their ear. And are as astray as cattle. As Allah says in the Quran, in him that hum kal-an'ami bal hum adall, they are worse than cattle. And that is the description sometimes of many of our children. Ask them some of the basic, most fundamental questions about Islam, and look at the responses that we get. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that the disbelievers, they say, وَقَالُوا مَا هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ وَمَا لَهُمْ بِذَلِكَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِنْ هُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they say, the disbelievers, that there's nothing of our life except the life of this world. We live and we die and nothing can destroy us except time. وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرَ, the only thing that can destroy us is time. And Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا لَهُمْ بِذَلِكَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ, and they have absolutely no knowledge about. إِنْ هُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ, they only conjecture. They only speculate. They have no knowledge. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah ta'ala says in his tafsir of this ayah, إِنَّمَا يَأْتَمِرُوا بِهَوَاهُ فَمَهْمَا رَآهُ حَسَنًا فَعَلَهُ وَمَهْمَا رَآهُ قَبِيحًا تَرَكَهُ, that their desires has now become their God. Whatever they see good, and they interpret it as good according to their desires, they do. And whatever they see bad, and they interpret it as bad according to their desires, they do. This is an era of narcissism that we live in today, where there is an increase of materialism, an increase of entitlement. Many of us, we have this entitlement that I am deserving of some type of special place in this world. Because of what? Yeah, you graduated from college with a PhD. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Kudos for you. But what have you done with that PhD that will turn around and be a benefit to the community? Yeah, you have a master's degree. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. But what has that master's degree done for you in terms of your supplying or servicing the community that you come from? Where's the work? There's no work. There's just people who holding on to pieces of paper with letters on them, seeking their validation through that, and not their validation through the work that they put in servicing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creatures. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, as this time will emerge, he prophesies. He said, إِذَا رَأَيْتَ شُحًّا مُطَاعًا وَهَوًا مُتَّبَعًا وَالدُّنْيَا مُؤْثَرًا وَإِعْجَابُ كُلِّ ذِي نَفْسٍ بِنَفْسِهِ دَعْ عَنْكَ فعليك بخاصة نفسك ودع عنك العوام فإنما ورائكم أيام الصابر على دينه كالقابل على جمل. The Prophet ﷺ said that when you see the time coming upon you, continue to enjoy what is good and forbid what is evil, until you see the time where people begin to obey their fear of poverty. Shuhn muta'an. They don't want to be poor anymore, so their fear of being poor dictates their trajectory in life. I'm never going back to being poor. And whatever it has to do, whatever I have to do to make sure that I never go back to being poor, I'm going to do it. Even if it means sell your soul or your religion in the process. Some of us come from environments, societies where we grew up rough. And growing up rough is designed to make you humble. Not some type of privilege that Allah was taking away from you. Not some type of punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inflicted on you and your family. Look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, born without a father, lost his mother at 6, lost his grandfather at 8. He was introduced to so much death by the time that he was 8 years old, more than many of us could ever experience. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still supplied him with what he needed, and he still became the best man to ever step 2 feet on this earth. But yet we say, well, I'm going to give my children, mashallah, what I never had. And this is exactly why your children will not carry on the legacy of Islam. Because you've given them what you never had. And what you never had was Islam. And that's what you're passing on to your children. The same legacy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَمْ كُنْتُمْ شُهَدَاءَ إِذْ حَضَرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتِ إِذْ قَالَ لِبَنِيهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِي قَالُوا نَعْبُدُ إِلَهَكَ وَإِلَهَ آبَائِنَا إِلَهًا وَاحِدًا. Were you present at the time when Ya'qub was on his deathbed? Israel. When Allah says Bani Israel, Israel is Ya'qub, the children of Ya'qub. Allah says, were you present at the time when Ya'qub was on his deathbed, when he said to his children, what are you going to worship after I'm gone? What are you going to worship after I'm gone? And his children said, we will worship your God, the God of our forefathers. Ibrahim, Ismail, and Ishaq, ilahan wahidan, one God. And we will submit to him. This is a man who was concerned about the legacy that he was leaving behind for his children. And while we leave a legacy of materialism, we leave a legacy of narcissism, we leave all of these different legacies, where is monotheism? Where's the legacy of monotheism? Tawheed, worshiping one God. Allah, we're going to be questioned about what we left our children with. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu gave sadaqah and left nothing for his family. The Prophet ﷺ asked Abu Bakr, "Ma tarakta li ahlik?" What did you leave for your family? Abu Bakr said, "Taraktu li ahli Allah wa Rasul." I left Allah and His Messenger from my family. That's enough. Alaysa Allahu bikafin abdah? Is not Allah enough, sufficient enough for His servant? Is not Allah enough for you? Or you need money, you need praise, you need status, you need position, you need a mansion, you need a Benz, you need a good job, you need a degree. Is not Allah sufficient for you? That doesn't mean that we should not leave our children well-to-do financially. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. But it makes no sense to leave our children well-to-do financially and to leave them starving, spiritually malnourished, because we didn't leave them Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-azim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bima ja'a fihi min al-ayati wa dhikri al-hakim. Aqulu ma tasma'un astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'iril mu'minina min kulli dhanb fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. الحمد لله الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إقرارا به وتوحيدا وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سراجا منيرا أما بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, the concept, much like the one known as YOLO, you only live once today, creates a moral and spiritual disconnect within our children. And it promotes recklessness and self-destructive behavior without a consciousness or a fear of consequences in the hereafter. It disguises itself in the form of liberation and freedom from social and traditional moral norms and values, which ultimately leads to the liberation of a higher authority, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So understand the domino effect that these type of concepts have on our children. You ever hear your children utter this comment in your home, in your presence, you correct them. We can't allow that to fester in our community. They say, YOLO. You say, no, come here. Let me explain to you. This is a teaching moment for you. We don't utter those type of comments. Even in joke, even in jest. We don't utter those type of comments because they go against what we believe. Consequently, many Muslims, especially the youth, have adopted these concepts due to their popularity and their prevalence in our culture. They give credence to these statistics or sadistic mantras simply because they make sense to them on some level, but are oxymoronic on other levels. However, we have to filter these concepts and belief through sources of information from our religion so that we avoid adopting something or accepting something that would be fundamentally infringing on the tenets of our faith and our belief that would ultimately put us at odds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about those who disbelieve and want to enjoy disbelief. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَرُهُمْ يَأْكُلُونَ وَيَتَمَتَّعُونَ وَيُلْهِهِمُ الْأَمَدُ فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, leave them. ذَرُهُمْ, leave them. يَأْكُلُوا وَيَتَمَتَّعُوا, leave them to eat and enjoy themselves in the life of this world. وَيُلْهِهِمُ الْأَمَلُ, and let false hopes divert them from the real reality. فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ, because soon they will come to know. Soon enough, they will come to know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us in the Quran, مَا يُجَادِلُ فِي آيَاتِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا فَلَا يَغْرُرُكَ تَقَلُّبُهُمْ فِي الْبِلَادِ, that they only argue and speculate about the signs of Allah except those who disbelieve. So do not let their traversing in the earth without any fear of consequences, don't let that deceive you. Don't let that deceive you. It was said that the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. That's the mark of an intelligent man, an intelligent woman, to hear somebody say something, understand their perspective without necessarily accepting it and adopting it as your own. Everything our children hear, whether from rappers or modern culture, everything they hear, they adopt. Because they don't have the fundamental skills, critical thinking skills, to sift through the nonsense and the absurdity of what they hear and use their religion as the guide, as the navigation for them. And that's our fault. That's our fault. By superimposing on them, follow this madhab, follow this minhaj, follow this. Dictatorship. Islam is not a dictatorship. Islam deals with logic. It makes sense. And we should challenge our children to critically analyze and think about what we're telling them. Not superimposing on them so they become replicas of us. If two people are the same, then one of you is irrelevant. If our children are just going to go on and make the same mistakes that we made and create the same mess of Islam that we made, then what is the point? Why are we even procreating? Why are we even producing another generation if they're not going to change the condition? The purpose of procreating is to change the current status quo, to change the condition, not to remain the same. So the life of this world is a quick passing enjoyment. And we should not squander every opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us by doing something idiotic so that we can look back years later and say, I did it. children yell YOLO, and then they go do something so idiotic. And then they look back years later and say, I did that. Squandering opportunities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. To say later on, I wasn't afraid to do that. Rather, our aspirations should be more exquisite and more motivational to do something so extraordinary that it will earn us the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can look back on it in the hereafter and say, I'm glad I made that sacrifice. I'm glad I gave that up. I'm glad I sacrificed. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا حتى إذا جاءوها وفتحت أبوابها وقال لهم خزنتها سلام عليكم طبتم فادخلوها خالدين. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when those people of Jannah, the inhabitants of Jannah, when they will be ushered to Jannah, Zumara, in a group, حتى إذا جاءوها, when they come to the gates of Jannah, فتحت أبوابها, the gates of Jannah will be open. وقال لهم خزنتها, and the guardian of the gatekeeper of Jannah, Ridwan, will say to them, Salamun alaykum, peace be upon you. Tibitum, you did good. You did good in the life of this world. Sacrifices that you made. قل إن الصلاة ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له. Say indeed, my salat, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, my death is all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbul Alameen. This is our life. The angels are going to come to you in your grave and ask you 3 questions. The believers who live their lives according to those 3 questions will answer those 3 questions as if it was nothing. Why? Because I lived my life. Who is my Lord? My Lord is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbi Allah. I lived my life according to that. My deen of what is your religion? What is my religion? My religion is Islam. Woman Nabiyyuk, and who is your prophet? Come on, this is a no-brainer. I spent my entire life trying to emulate this man. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My entire life revolves around loving and emulating this man in every single facet of human life. Nabiyyina Muhammad, our prophet is Muhammad. You passed with flying colors because you lived your life according to it. And then there are those who unfortunately will fail those tests because although you can regurgitate what you heard other people saying, you didn't live by it. It wasn't a reality for you. And then there are those in ending who will spend their entire lives in this life enjoying themselves, having the time of their lives. But in the hereafter, they will regret every single minute. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this regretful soul. أن تقول نفسي يا حسرة على ما فرطت في جنب الله وإن كنت لمن الساخرين. Or at least the soul should say on the day of judgment, that woe be to me, I wish I had not been negligent about the rights of Allah over me. And I was indeed amongst those who used to mock the Muslims. You gotta pray. Come on, man, with the prayer stuff, man. You can do that when you get home. Lower your gaze, man. Don't you see these women? Lower your gaze for what? MashaAllah, tabarakallah. But you, in the hereafter, you will regret every minute of it. Or at least a soul should say, woe be to me, I wish I had not been negligent as it relates to the rights of Allah over me. And I was indeed amongst those who used to make fun of the Muslims. He said, أو تقول نفسي أو تقول حين ترى أو تقول لو أن الله هداني لكنت من المتقين. Or then there's another type of soul that will say, I wish Allah had guided me, and indeed I would have been amongst those who were righteous, pious. You don't blame it on Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah sent you sign after sign after sign, extended to you rahmah after rahmah after rahmah. Mercy after mercy after mercy extended to you. And then you say, Yawm al-Qiyamah, I wish Allah had guided me, then I would have indeed been amongst the righteous. Not going to work Yawm al-Qiyamah. And the third soul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أو تقول حين ترى العذاب لو أن لي كرة فأكون من المحسنين. Or at least the soul should say when they see the punishment coming in front of them, I wish I could go back. لو أن لي كرة, I wish I could go back. فأكون من المحسنين, and I would have been amongst the good doers. As Allah mentions in another ayah, حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَ أَحَدُهُمُ الْمَوْتِ قَالَ رَبِّ ارْجِعُونِ لَعَلِّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا فِيمَا تَرَكْتُ. That when death comes to one of them, they say, رَبِّ ارْجِعُونِ, oh my Lord, send me back so I can do some good deeds that I forgot to do the first time. But it's just false hopes. كَلَّا إِنَّهَا كَلِمَةٌ هُوَ قَائِلُهَا. It's just a word that comes out of your mouth, no reality to it. So the fact of the matter, brothers and sisters, it's not that you only live once, you only die once. Because what is after death is eternal. What is after death is eternal. You only die once. As Allah says in the Quran, لا يذوقون فيها الموت إلا الموتة الأولى ووقاهم عذاب الجحيم. Allah says they will never taste in the life of this world except one death. إلا الموتة الأولى. You will only taste the first death. That's it. Because what comes after it is eternal. People in the hellfire will say, I wish I was dirt. Ya laytani kuntu turaba. I wish I was dirt to just be destroyed. La wallahi. You will feel every bit of that pain. For every minute, every second that you enjoy the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, you will answer for it. You will answer for it. But the fact of the matter is that you don't just die once, you don't only live once. Living after this is eternal. You only die once. And after death is over here, you will never have to experience death again. It's either eternal damnation in the hellfire or eternal bliss in Jannah. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Jannah. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. Oh Allah, we ask you for Jannah, what will bring us closer to it from statements and actions. ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. Oh Allah, we seek refuge with you from the hellfire, what will bring us closer to it from statements and actions. اللهم إنا نسألك جنة الفردوس الأعلى. Oh Allah, we ask you for the highest place in Jannah, الفردوس الأعلى. يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة. Probably the shortest khutbah I ever gave in my life. Before we depart, inshallah, after the salat, we have a few announcements we would like to make that concerns everyone here in the community, inshallah. So if you could just give us 2 minutes, inshallah, before we depart.